Hello, greetings. So this is going to be a Gorean topic again. I have been discussing with some great folks at Facebook message board about the Gorean lifestyle. And one thing that came up was basically respect towards slaves. And this is a topic I see popping up every now and then with in Gorean message boards, when Goreans meet and talk, and so on and so forth. Basically, how much a respect is a slave owed from the free. And really, none. That's the simple and hard truth of it. Within the Gorean lifestyle, this is how we look at it. A slave is property. They are they are deserving as much respect as this lip balm. They are there to please the free, and that's it. So really, the basis of this discussion was what if somebody wants to call a slave slut or beast or anything else, is that okay? Yeah, it is. It's perfectly okay. Basically, a free can call a slave anything he or she damn well pleases because they are free and slaves are slaves. I think a lot of people who come into the Gorean lifestyle have this very romanticized idea that they'll be like harem girls and they'll be pampered and loved and adored and wear pretty jewelry and say yes master and have great sex. And that's sort of real when they meet the reality of the lifestyle, which is that slaves are expected to be slaves. Now, of course, within our lifestyle, it's all consensual. And also, of course, it's not legal slavery. The slave can leave if she so wants. But as long as she's part of that lifestyle, as long as she identifies as a Gorean slave, she doesn't have any rights within that lifestyle. She doesn't have a right to be treated with respect. She doesn't have a right to her name. She doesn't have a right to anything. Now, within the books, of course, slaves were raped in the streets and all of that. That of course we don't do that because there are sexually transmissible diseases. There has to be some bounds of reason because we are not living on an alien planet where huge cockroaches provide us serums that basically makes a broken arm heal in 3 days and prevents any kind of illness, almost any kind of illness. Since we don't have that, there has to be some bounds of reason. But basically, a slave is expected to be subservient, polite, respectful, and obedient to any free. And I think that's a very hard pill for many so-called Kachiras to swallow. I'm not talking about anybody in that thread because we mostly agreed. I'm just mentioning that I got the idea for the topic from that thread. But a lot of places I see this again and again and again. I don't need to call a master, call a free person master, and it's so horrible. He called me girl, he called me little one, he called me bitch. He can call you whatever he wants. Because you're a slave, you identify as a slave. Now, basically, this is how it works. Of course, since we live on Earth, there are some boundaries. If a free person tells Akajira, send me all your money, of course she isn't expected to do that. She isn't expected to sleep with anybody who tells her to. She isn't expected to just drop everything and buy a plane ticket and go half across the world. But if a free person says, go get me a glass of water, she's expected to do that. If a free person says, shut up and butt out of this debate, she's expected to do that. At the same way that a free person is deserving of all respect, all obedience, and, and almost reverence from a slave. A slave is deserving of, can expect none. I'm not saying that she's deserving of one, because some slaves do get to the point where they deserve respect. I mean, when I was a slave, there were several free men who treated me with a lot of respect because they found me knowledgeable. I pleased them to the point where even if they didn't have to, me being just a slave and them being free, they called me by my name. They were very kind and respectful to me, but they didn't have to. If a free man wants to call you cum bucket, you answer him, yes, master. Simple as that. And I mean, I was taught by my master when I was a slave that if a free person asked me my name, I would say, it's Anya, if it pleases master. Meaning, this is my name, but if it pleases you to use something else, I think that it confuses a lot of slave girls who comes from a BDSM background. And I'm not saying anything wrong about BDSM. I think BDSM is awesome. But I think it confuses them a lot because within most BDSM relationships, it works like this. You are subservient to one person. There's only one person who has any kind of special rights of privilege over you. To anyone else, you are just your regular person on the street. And nobody else have any right to demand anything else of you. But within the Gorean lifestyle, a slave is that is considered to be a social class, and so everyone is expected. Or every slave is expected to show reverence to the free, and the free doesn't have to return that respect. They can't demand that respect. Now, when that is said, personally, when I see a free man or a free woman treat slaves poorly for no particular good reason, I don't get very high thoughts of them. It works a little bit like this. I can't demand anybody treat my cat with respect. I can demand that I don't harm her. But if somebody wants to say that damn bloody fucking mutt, they are free to do so. But if somebody refers to my cat or any other animal around like that constantly, I'm going to think they are not very well behaved and not very well bred. I think that they are crude and rude. And the same thing if somebody goes around and tell a slave, come back at, then I am going to think them to be pretty crude and rude. They won't basically shine in my eyes. But the slave doesn't have the right to demand any other treatment. And I think this is where a lot of people don't get it. Do I think it's good practice to go around and uh, basically call slaves names and verbally abuse them? No, I don't think that is a good practice. I don't think that reflects well on a free person. However, the slave herself doesn't have any right to demand any other treatment because she's a slave. Goreans try to get slavery as close to basically real chattel slavery as we can. As long as that relationship lasts, as long as that person is still uh, willingly a Gorean slave, she or sometimes he is just property. Now, I personally prefer if property are treated relatively kindly, and I uh, enjoy polite discourse. I think that it is better if nobody just throws around names at anybody else. I mean, calling a girl is fine, but every other word in the book. And actually, I mean, when I was a slave, I much more preferred to be called by my name than to be called little one, slut, or whatever else there might be. But a slave doesn't have the right to demand this. That's where the difference lies. And in the discussion on the Facebook page, um, somebody said, but if you go up to a random woman on the street and call her slut, then you can be arrested for sexual harassment. And I guess in some nations you can. But here's the point. Akachira isn't a random person on the street. Chiro is a member of a lifestyle and she has agreed to this. I mean, I too agree that you shouldn't go up to the random person on the street and call her slut or whatever else you feel like. But somebody who is part of the Gorean lifestyle, who has said, this is how I want to live, and I identify as a slave. That's something different. It's like this, and I use this example on the forum. I'm a member of a cult order known as Amor. It's a Rosicrucian order. And now I'm a pagan. And a lot of pagans love to toss out sister everywhere, and I cringe. Because to me, sister or brother is a very, very personal thing. There are not many people in this world I would refer to so. It's my actual brother. It's I would refer to my best friend as my brother, and the members of my former coven I would call my sisters and brothers. And anywhere else, I cringe. I don't enjoy it when random strangers, just because they have the same religious beliefs as me, come up and call me sister. However, this is a common way. This is how people within Armor, that's polite discourse. That is how we address one another as soror and frater, sister and brother. And I have willingly gone into that order. Therefore, I have no right to complain when somebody uses that word because it's a part of that society. And it is the same thing with Goreans. If you identify as a slave within the Gorean lifestyle, you have agreed to this. Which means that even if your master might decide that he doesn't want to address you like that, if other free wants to, that's their choice. And really, if your master wants to protest about how somebody else addresses you, that's his prerogative, not yours. It's like there was one blog, and I can't remember where it is. I'm sorry if I ever find it, I'll link it. And the slave girl that wrote it had a very, very good point. She said some of the most difficult things that she had to face as a slave was to be polite and subservient to all three. So that even if there was somebody she despised, even if Hitler's pedophile reincarnation sat right next to you and identified as a Gorean free person. As a slave, you had to be extremely polite, subservient, and just say yes, master. You have no right to judge him, and if he wants to call you cum bucket, then you just have to say yes, master. That's the reality of being a slave. Now, the free can decide that this person they don't recognize as a peer, they don't recognize him as a Gorean, but you as a slave don't have that right. And I guess I'm making this video because it's a kind of a pet peeve of mine. And I do try to make not too many slavery videos because there's so much on slaves when it comes to gore already, and I think that there's so much more to this lifestyle than just slavery, and I want to focus on that. But this thing irks me. It's a princess slaves. People who go into the Gorean lifestyle and they call themselves Kachira, they primp around and say how they have a fire in the belly and all women are slaves. And when then a free person treats them as slaves, they, oh, how dare you address me as that? And that really pisses me off. I mean, I don't need you to go around and call me mistress. Just please don't do that because uh, it makes me cringe. But I do expect if I'm going to consider somebody to be a Gorean slave, I expect them to behave like it. And that means I expect them to be polite and subservient to all free, and if a free person wants to call them anything, their only response is, yes, master. That's the reality of slavery. And if you can't live with that, then if you want to enter the Gorean lifestyle, do it as a free woman, or don't enter the Gorean lifestyle. Because that's the reality of this lifestyle. Slaves doesn't have any rights. They are slaves. They're property. They are beasts. And if a free person decides to treat you with respect, that is his or her gift to you, not something that you can demand. Basically, you can't just sit within the Gorean lifestyle and say, but that's not my master. Because actually, yeah, you only one person or perhaps a couple own you. But you are a slave, you are below every free person in rank. And if you can't tolerate that, then you need to learn more about this lifestyle before you claim to be a member of it. And I know it's difficult. I mean, I've been a slave and I'm pretty outspoken. And ooh, it was so difficult at times to just sit on my hands when a free person said, shut up, or just bite my tongue if they used a name for me that I didn't like, or if they asked me to speak in third person, or if basically they did things that I didn't like. But when I was a slave, that was my place. And here's the point. Here's the point you need to consider. Because I've heard of this argument of yourself, but what you're gonna do? I can't do anything. Being a part of this lifestyle is voluntary. However, when you as a slave act in a way that is very unbecoming of a slave, that reflects very, very, very poorly at your master. Like I told one person one time, it's like this. Somebody has a dog and they let that dog just shit over the neighbor's backyard day out and day in. Chances are the neighbors aren't gonna look too favorably at the dog owner. And it's the same thing if uh, a slave is rude, demanding, and acts in a very unslave-like manner. I'm gonna think Either she's just playing and her master is just playing as well, or this master has absolutely no control over his property. Neither of them, not very positive. So you reflect poorly on your master. And I mean, even me as a free woman, I have to be somewhat careful because as my free companion wife or free companion, my actions reflect on him because I am subservient to him. So if I behave in a horrible manner that is against what he believes in, that reflects badly on his house, and I don't want that. And the same way, if you are a slave and you act like a brat, that reflects extremely poorly on the master. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I've seen been wanted for 20 minutes. So yeah, if anybody is still listening to me, thank you. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day and blessed be.